There is a sixth dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the Infinity Gems. It is the middle ground between the big two and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
Can you guys hear me now? I mean, I should be able to be on. Can I be heard? Oh my god. Fucking uh all right. So oh Jesus Christ. So one time I can't even get my shit in order. That's right. That's right. Okay, so you can hear me. Now all I got to do is get you on the fucking stream. Yeah. Voice meter input? Say something. There you go. All right, we got you. All right. Hey. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your boomer host, the Church of Failure, and with me, as always, is my trusty co-host, Ayrton McCartney. The infamous
How's it
hat
going,
account.
everybody?
This is our shit show. I switched back from Streamlabs OBS because it was giving me such a fucking hard time, and you know, switching back to regular OBS, apparently it updated and reset all my audio settings. So
Again.
yeah, I apparently should be. I have all my articles loaded. I have all my images uploaded. I've got our reviews ready. I thought we were good to go. I'm sitting here sipping scotch. We're just talking, and everybody's like, "Dead air, boomer," and I'm like, "What the fuck?"
It wouldn't be the Gospel of Comics without some sort of technical issue.
Yeah, infamous hat account. If you want to come on, just add the email that just add. Shit. Let me DM you my my Skype account. Just add me on Skype. I'll get you on there.
Impromptu guess.
There we go. Yeah, infamous hat account here.
I can dig it.
So anyway, my trusty co-host Ayrton McCartney, how are you doing this week, buddy? Now that we fucked everything up.
So I guess I'm just going again. So yeah, I poured my fourth Guinness for the night because I hadn't heard from you because you were playing Magic: The Gathering, and I wasn't sure what was going on with the show, so I started a bit early when I got off of work. So,
Well, I was being an irresponsible fucking playing Magic: The Gathering. I had a long work week and just kind of needed to decompress and do some nerd shit for a little while. So I went and played some
which is
Commander.
fair.
I know none of you guys give a shit about Commander, but this is my day. Went and played 3 rounds. Maybe another time. No problem, buddy. You know, we'll
You can never be too drunk to be on this show.
Yeah, you're right, but I respect other people's limits when they're drinking because other people don't
True.
respect mine, and that's how I get in trouble. But
That's
anyway,
fair.
came in second place after 3 rounds of Commander, so that was pretty good. Got home, set up the show. Did not check my audio setting. I'm just gonna make it a point that anytime I open up my computer, I'm just gonna spend an hour making sure my audio settings are good.
That's probably a good idea at this point.
Maybe just anytime. Maybe I should just wake up an hour earlier in the morning and reset all of my audio settings. I mean, is that what we should be doing?
Well, what you should do first is open all the settings and stuff on your computer and take a picture of it with your computer screen with your phone.
Oh, that
so
doesn't
you can just
matter.
make sure.
Yeah,
So you can just make sure everything matches.
See, as soon as I do that, all the words will change. So no matter what, I'll never be able to have the same settings again. That's just my fucking.
Yeah,
that's anyway,
fair.
we've got a pretty. Go ahead.
You'll press something, it'll all turn into Vietnamese, and
Right.
you'll Charlie speaking from the trees at you.
So we've got a pretty loaded show tonight. I've got a lot of comic news to kind of go through. Some interesting bits, some things. There's one that just really kind of stuck out to me. I don't know how many people remember the Heroes TV show. Are you familiar with that? It was a long time ago. Yeah, the superhero TV show.
It was like a knockoff X-Men.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. But it was good for the first season and the last season.
I don't know if I ever actually watched it. I might have.
Everything in between was kind of but the first and the last season were okay, and then they tried to revive it, and it just didn't work.
It had that one chick that was in a bunch of stuff at the time, right? She's like blonde.
Hayden Pater, is that what you're talking about?
I don't know.
The cheerleader. The teenage cheerleader.
She looks like
girl.
she would be.
Yeah.
She looks like she would be a cheerleader.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah, she was in that.
Okay.
Well, there's been an opinion piece put out about Heroes Season 2, and I saw that, and I was just like, why not look at that? And it is from Screen Rant, so you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
But, I was interested in it, so I figured we'd bring it up to talk about.
Yeah, why not?
So, again, I'm a longtime fan of this show. I had some strong opinions about it when it was out. Let's just get into it. After an excellent first season, why was Heroes 2 such a monumental disappointment? Heroes Season 2 was a monumental disappointment because they took everything interesting about the show and turned it on its head. Now, again, this show is like 13 years old, but...
So you're saying they tried to subvert your expectations?
This was a golden era of TV, I think. This was right around the time that Lost was really popular, whose creator is now working on Watchmen. Or a screenwriter, I don't know. Somebody that was involved with Lost was working on it. But Lost was a decent show for its time.
It was,
until the end.
A point.
Like...
It started to get tedious.
Right. Well... Anyway, premiering on NBC in 2006, Heroes originated from the mind of Tim Kring and took the world by storm with this grounded depiction of ordinary people who suddenly develop superpowers. So basically, yeah, X-Men. Playing across 23 tightly written episodes, interweaving arcs of Heroes' flawed yet relatable ensemble formed a neat tapestry mixing classic comic book heroes and villain tropes with real-world issues of drug addiction, high school drama, breaking away from the mold of the invisible everyman to become something truly special. And, I agree wholeheartedly. Like, there was an artist that could see the future, but he could only use his powers when he was doped up. So, you had that kind of stuff, and that's what made the story more intriguing. I mean, there was some weird shit, like the doctor who turned into an insect man. That didn't really make a whole lot of sense, but what are you going to do?
I mean, it won't be a superhero medium if there wasn't some stuff that made no sense.
With glowing reviews and very strong viewing figures, Heroes was the next big thing in the first season, and after a satisfying finale, hopes remained high for the second. Unfortunately, Heroes was destined to go down as one of TV's biggest missed opportunities. The subsequent 3 seasons, as well as Heroes Reborn sequel, which we don't even talk about in this house, charted a decline in quality, viewership, and acclaim that the NBC series would never recover from. Which, I mean, makes sense, because like I said, the 4th season, I feel like, had a lot of the same oomph that the first season did, but it had already just destroyed his reputation with people that watched it, so. To this day, Heroes first season... Go ahead.
That's pretty common for shows like that. Like, the first season's good, the next 2 suck, and then they're like, oh shit, we fucked up, and they try and make the next season like really, really good, but nobody cares at that point.
Right. Anyway, to this day, Heroes' first season remains a shining example of box set serialized television done right. Every character is steeped in different shades of personality, every episode serves to advance the plot and further the show's mysteries, and each element is a vital cog in the wheel grinding towards a single epic conclusion with all of the ingredients in place of future success. How did Heroes' second outing manage to disappoint with such spectacular fashion? And, again, I think this is kind of what I'm about to personally deem the Shredder epidemic. Because anybody who's read the first issue of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles knows that in the first issue, the Turtles kill Shredder. Their most prolific villain, who makes a repeat appearance over 2 of the 3 motion picture movies of the show and is the main villain of the cartoon show in most iterations, is killed off in the first issue of the comics and subsequently brought back through Because Comics means. This show, I feel like, did the same thing. Because the first season, for anybody that remembers, focused around a character known as Peter Petrelli, who really was your Superman type character. He could, just through empathy, he could absorb other people's powers permanently and call them back. And then you had his polar opposite in Sylar, who was, a supervillain who would kill and dissect heroes and take their powers. And both of these characters quickly evolved and became more efficient at doing what they were doing until a final showdown which, with that setup, can you imagine the overload of absorbing all the powers of an evil bad guy has absorbed by killing people instead of just taking them on one by one?
Yeah, you could do some crazy shit with that.
Yeah,
done right.
They never capitalized on that, and I feel like that was just kind of a big letdown, but anyway. Hero Season 1 succeeded primarily on the strength of his characters, without viewers instantly connecting to the likes of Peter Petrelli, Hiro Nakamura, and Clara Bennett, and immediately fearing Sylar as a threatening presence. Every other component falls apart. Mirroring this phenomenon, Heroes 2 season came undone partially because this new addition didn't come close to the popularity of the established cast. Heroes' early stories were built on intrigue of how ordinary folks would cope and use their newfound powers, but since Season 1's cast soon became very familiar with their abilities, fresh faces were needed for a Season 2. Heroes added the likes of Elle and Bob Bishop, and the immortal Adam Monroe, Flyboy West Rosen, and sibling duo Maya and Alejandro for his follow-up season. Aside from Christian Bale's Elle, the lesser extent Adam, The other new additions to Heroes Season 2 were forgettable at best and downright annoying at worst, which, again, I'll concede. I think, though, that every show kind of has that character that you love to hate. And, I don't feel like they succeeded in creating that, even though there were characters you just didn't like, but you didn't like them not because they were, people you weren't supposed to like. You just didn't like them because they were stupid. Like Maya and Alejandro. Maya spread a plague everywhere she went, and the only person that could stop it was her brother Alejandro. That was his superpower. And the whole plot
to
thread
stop
with those,
her plague.
right? The whole plot thread with those is Sylar kills Alejandro and basically, gaslights Maya into maybe becoming a weapon of mass destruction until the Insect Man got a hold of her, and it was a Beauty and the Beast type thing. Like, she encountered the Insect Man and got scared of him because he was more beast than man. It was dumb. In stark contrast to Season 1, Heroes' later editions often felt one-dimensional. Maya and Alejandro, for example, were little more than a traveling plot device designated to augment the arcs of Sylar and Mohinder, that's exactly what I was saying, rather than vital characters in their own right. Without a necessary interjection of introducing new blood to the Heroes cast, Season 2 came with a sense of staleness. They also recycled a character. There was a blonde chick who played someone with a split personality, and her split personality was like superhuman strong and vicious and relentless, but she was like this timid housewife. And, well, not timid housewife, she was kind of a whore, but what are you going to do? But then they reintroduced her as like a Mrs. like Iceman type character for whatever reason, and tried to ploy that the sisters were triplets, and I don't know. It was very strange, yeah. There's nothing more frustrating than watching a gripping season of TV, only for the developments witnessed during those many viewing hours to be undone further down the line. This is precisely what Heroes Season 2 is guilty of, winding multiple character and story arcs right back to the beginning with a soft reset. Audience had delighted in watching Peter Petrelli's growth from an unsure dreamer hospice nurse to a man with all the powers. As fantastic as his evolution in Heroes Season 1, the series had written itself into a corner by overpowering its protagonist. The chosen solution was to have Peter lose his memory, forgetting the impressive array of powers he possessed. This certainly pared down his abilities, but also made the character a completely different entity compared to his Season 1 self. And many viewers might have felt like they were watching a stranger rather than the leading character. An example of Heroes Season 2 undoing the work of Season 1 is in the Apocalypse story. Heroes' debut season began with a vision of an apocalyptic future and chronicled the subsequent attempts to prevent that reality from ever happening. Very Days of Future Past-ish, which, it was a good thread to start on, but they just went about it incorrectly. Leading to an uplifting finale where the crisis is eventually averted.
Imagine my shock.
Yeah, rather than focus on the new threat, the Generation storyline recycles that same idea. True. Peter had the vision of a second apocalypse in Episode 6, and the remainder of Season 2 is spent striving to prevent that future from happening. Not only does this feel repetitive, but it also renders the effort of last season pointless. In fairness, Heroes Season 2 woes were not entirely of its own making, as the production fatally collided with the writer's strike. See, we still can't...
I remember that.
Yeah, like, we don't talk about that anymore, but, television writing just got awful after a while.
Yeah.
The show has so many characters
are we that old?
To hate. Yeah, we are.
Jeez.
Yeah, we were still of college age when this show came out. You might have even still been in high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just so surprised that they did an opinion piece on this. Like, it was a pretty slow news week because a lot of the focus has been on the Comic-Con in Tulsa and other things. Comic Book Day, shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was hard to find good articles that look semi-interesting.
Right. The news just wasn't really that interesting this week, but we did find some tidbits to talk about. Anyway, many TV shows and movies were negatively impacted by the strike action, including Lost, which James Bond, Quantum of Solace, and Heroes certainly don't escape lightly. Originally, Heroes Season 2 was divided into 3 volumes, Generations, Exodus, and Villains. What?
Man, James Bond, Quantum of Solace, that was not a good one.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
They
made up for it with Skyfall, but man, Quantum of Solace was not good.
In the end, however, the season was curtailed into a mere 11 episodes. The Exodus angle was axed completely, and Villains was shifted to Season 3. This upheaval is apparent in how abruptly so many Heroes' second season story arcs came to an end. With Sylar left weakened, the Nightmare Man is set up as Heroes' next major villain, and the ominous build-up begins promisingly, with Molly playing a creeped-out child role to perfection. However, this baddie is dealt with disappointingly quick fashion over the course of only a handful of episodes, wasting a character that had the potential to run for an entire season. In a similar vein, the Hero Season 2 finale sees Peter Petrelli and his team attempt to prevent a series of the release of a deadly virus, but the story's big climax ends with Peter simply using his telepathy to catch the falling vial. Problem solved.
Ooh, the suspense.
Yeah. There is no good comparison between this short-term piecemeal storytelling and the gradual crescendo of Season 1, where every episode is heading towards the same end goal. And then it kind of goes into the character arcs. Sylar just kind of became a good guy working for the Fed. It begins with a time skip. Hiro Nakamura has almost mastered his powers and all that good shit. Nikki's developed a third persona. No, that's her triplet. You've forgotten already. Her partner DL is dead. DL was pretty cool. Lessening stakes, yeah, save the cheerleader, save the world. I mean, I was just really surprised to see anything, about this series come up. Like, when I saw it,
that's really random.
Yeah, at first I thought that, okay, are they going to try rebooting it again? What are they doing here? But I mean, Zachary Quinto with a major powerhouse in there, like he became Spock afterwards. He starred in American Horror Story. It was, it was a really good show, but it just never went anywhere.
I mean, when you write 2 apocalypses into a show, you kind of get the inkling that the writers don't really have that many ideas after that.
Right. And, again, I think that, first off, the writer's strike had a lot to do with it. And
yeah, that's fair.
It feels to me like a lot of the story arcs and the tropes that they took, like you said in the very beginning, came from the X-Men. And, time has told us over and over again that is a very complex, which we'll be talking about a little bit later tonight when we review Excalibur. But that is a very complex set of tropes to really juggle and balance correctly. Like, there's a reason that when you think X-Men, if you're a comics fan, the first name that comes to mind is not the creator, but it's Chris Claremont.
Yeah.
It's Chris Claremont, it's Len Wein. There are a few writers and artists that actually get it and get it right. And this show just kind of shows that if comic books are one of those things, that you have to be very careful trying to adapt to a different medium. We've gone over this a little bit with Watchmen. Like, as a longtime fan of the comic series and the movie, I feel like the show does kind of a disservice to the overall storytelling. Because
kind of.
Trying to be fair, Ayrton. I'm only one scotch in right now. Just wait. We'll get there. I have enough to be mad about this week.
That's true.
I'm probably gonna have to watch Watchmen season or episode 3 for these people.
Why would you bring that up? Now they're going to request it, and then we're going to have to do it. I was hoping to get a week without it.
But then you wouldn't know what was going on. But then you wouldn't know what was going on in episode 4, and you know we're going to end up having to watch this whole fucking series because it's only 12 episodes.
I don't even know what's going on in episode 2.
It's okay. We can talk about it later. There's a penis in it. That's as far as I got.
Yeah, that's about all I got, too.
Feels like Heroes Reborn was Hollywood's answer to, we need to get this band back together. It isn't a midlife crisis, goddammit. No, see, Daniel's already in the chat. Do it! I think he just wants to torture you.
Yeah, he just wants to torture me.
See, in the chat is the only time he has power over you, so he's using it to his full advantage.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, Bill Gates always said, work smarter, not harder. So, I mean, you got a good... I'll request it on the Patreon, so you have to. There you go.
God damn it.
Speaking of which, Patreon update. After the first month's payout of more than, a $1 patron, we do have enough set to start setting up the podcast. So we will start on that this weekend, probably some point tomorrow. We do still have to get together to F for Church's desire to not watch Watchmen.
I think I have more of a desire to not watch it than he does at this point.
Well, I mean, at this point, I can watch it and make fun of it. Like,
yeah.
You know, what is it that YouTubers always say is content?
That's true.
I mean, content is content. But, anyway, as we've talked about with Watchmen, though, to do a proper adaptation, I feel like it takes a lot of just kind of checks and balances. I read somewhere earlier that the biggest criticism of Snyder's Watchmen film is that even though Alan Moore and Gibbons tried to subvert a lot of the superhero tropes in the comic books while putting superheroes in a very, down-to-earth, worldly type setting, very similar to Heroes, that the effects and the trappings of the Watchmen movie were, just a little too over the top and completely subverted that idea of not being flashy, garish superheroes. However, I don't think it's... I don't think that the show does any better in that regard.
Yeah.
I feel like the show dresses up in Watchmen trappings and makes, just kind of to get you F for Ayrton's desire to not do the dehumanizing shit we want him to do. That is correct.
I mean, you guys know I'm going to do it. Doesn't mean I have to be happy about it.
Right. I'm gonna throw an F out there for that too, because
Can I throw an F for that?
I think you can.
Because I'm doing it anyways.
Right. Give a shit what you do. You showed up for the show. How's that strike going for you, buddy?
I need a better union teamster.
I'm sorry, I'm all you get.
How come goddamn TV and movie writers can go on strike and then, fuck up our entertainment, but I can't?
I mean, if you just don't show up one day, that would be on strike, wouldn't it?
I guess.
I do initiate a Skype call. You could just hang up.
I mean but
you just have no control. You just have no control over your own agency.
I mean, what else am I gonna do with my night?
Drink Guinness in peace and quiet. Play some guitar.
Either way, yeah, I did that already.
But anyway, moving on. I was really surprised to see Heroes in the news, and I wanted to talk about it because you don't get to talk about Heroes anymore. it's done. It's over, and it's just generally accepted that it was bad. So,
Yeah, honestly, I don't like. I vaguely remember some of the faces of the actors in the show and kind of what it was about, but I don't really remember the show that much. I don't know if I really.
oh man, I watched it like 8 times.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever like. I might have watched a couple episodes, but I don't really remember like watching it.
It's more of a general strike. Essential services cannot be interrupted. Drink liquor and watch porn. I want to know why
You mean
Ventimiglia doesn't have a stage name. He does. It's Peter Petrelli. That's the only thing anybody knows him from.
Hey, and Knox, it would be drink liquor and make porn. Thank you very much.
Oh, big talking now.
Well, go follow our Pornhub channel on the Gospel of Comics.
I have no control over that. That's those are all his uploads. He just put my name on it. I'm actually in the middle of filing a lawsuit against him for that.
Hey, we could show the fish penis that everybody is so down with.
We can do that on BitChute.
That's fair, but it's fun. It would be funnier if we live streamed on Pornhub versus BitChute. If we were going to do that, Cornhub. Fuck yes, Matt.
Oh God, I'm done with all of you. I quit. I'm just gonna put my headset down. You finish the fucking show.
I mean, I'll try.
The horror comics renaissance and why it matters. So this ties in a little bit. Oh yeah, he is known for This Is Us now. Yeah, I suppose you're right.
What's This Is Us?
It's another show that was I don't know. It was like Netflix or Hulu exclusive or something. It's a ladies show.
Ah.
There's feelings in it. Men don't like it.
Feelings like plural?
Not yeah, like you have to feel
singular?
things.
Not like singular.
No, not like feeling anything. Like you have to have feelings to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You can't be a complete sociopath. There's actual emotion in it. I don't like that.
Oh. Yeah. That's not cool.
But as you guys have probably noticed here lately, we've had the opportunity to review a lot of horror comics. What? Oh, in the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna.
Jesus Christ, novel, bro.
Against my better judgment, I'm gonna check the Discord. Probably. I'm not gonna bring it up on screen because the Kiddies Can't Consent channel is. Oh, Brother Teresa. Hell yeah, brother. Cornhub roasted. That's fantastic. That's great marketing. The issue with television and why I don't bother with it, or Hollywood, they're in a rush to complete entire story arcs in 1 to 3 episodes, or a single film in movie land. Einbrecht, it could be said that the comic book industry is just as guilty of that, because we've devolved the medium, at least in the sense of the big two, into 6-issue chunks to make them, to give them the ability to be resold multiple times over. Because we've talked about this before, but every comic book series in Marvel and DC goes in a cycle. You have between 3 and 5 issues that make up, or 3 and 6 issues that make up a story arc, and then they package that into a bound volume together and sell it again. And then they sell you the omnibus and the ultimate edition and the hardbound copy and the special edition. It's ridiculous the way they do that. But yeah, every storyteller in the world has gotten into the habit of, okay, well, this just has to be digestible, because people don't have faith in an audience to come back. And I don't know if that's a lack of faith in the audience or a lack of faith in one's ability. But I mean, I feel like it's prominent in just about every form of medium.
Yeah. I mean, make as much money as you can off of the same exact product.
Southerner violently fists Yankee after firing him for the 100th time, then quits his own job. YouTube clickbait title of the year. That'll be our 200th episode.
Man. And hey, Novel Bro, I was born in the South. Thank you very much. I just don't have the accent.
To be fair, we all have short attention spans. That's true, but I mean, the success of Star Wars didn't happen from someone just cranking out a movie and saying this is it. The success of Star Wars was like what, almost a decade long of waiting on new movies.
Yeah.
What was the release schedule of the Star Wars movies? They definitely didn't come out every year, did they?
It was 77, then I think 1980, then 1983.
So it was like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You have that anticipation that builds, especially, between Empire and
77,
Jedi.
1980, and 83. Yeah. So
yeah,
I mean,
between like Empire and Jedi, you have like the big, one of the biggest like cinematic twists and like of all time of Darth Vader being Luke's father. Then you're like, oh shit, what's going to happen in Jedi? And then you have to wait another 3 years till it comes out. That's how you build anticipation. For a storyline.
I mean, I think that we can all kind of take a page out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the sense that there are people that have been following this shit for over a decade.
I mean,
since
I've been watching it since the first Iron Man movie.
What is that, 2008?
Yeah.
So, I mean, people will pay attention for longer amounts of time. It's just they just don't put the effort into telling a good story anymore. I mean, the people that do put their heart and soul into it can't get the time because a movie producer or a comic book publisher doesn't want to take a chance on something that is going to take a large investment and not pay off if it doesn't hit.
Right, and that's the thing with what comic books are trying to like replicate, which isn't going to work, is kind of that like mainstream like popcorn audience with movies like with the MCU, which are overall up until Endgame were for the most part pretty good movies. Besides, a couple here and there were kind of meh, but overall, up until then, I didn't mind, every year going to see the next installment of the story as it's building.
Right.
But after Endgame, I'm probably not going to watch any of the other ones because they just, I don't care anymore because, it starts with Iron Man and it ends with Iron Man. You have a full cinematic story. That's right. It. Yeah. Leave it for a few years if nothing else. But I think that's kind of what comic books are trying to do, is kind of that mainstream popcorn audience sort of thing, and it's not going to work even with the mainstreaming of quote unquote nerd culture. But that's just selling T-shirts with the Batman logo on it and those pop figurines.
Yeah. Well, to kind of loop it back around and get it back on track, one thing that is kind of coming back to prominence is the horror comic genre. And we've got an article here from Sci-Fi Wire. If there's any doubt, we're smack in the middle of a horror comics renaissance. This week's launch of a boutique imprint of fright and chill-inducing titles should put that to rest. Debuting this NCBD, New Comic Book Day, for those not familiar with the acronym. Oh, stop being so pretentious, you wilted fuck. Is Basket Full of Heads. Why would you just say debuting this week like a normal fucking human being?
I've never heard anybody use that acronym.
Nobody does. That's some writer bullshit. No offense to any of the writers in the chat. Like that's just some article like clickbait title bullshit.
Yeah, go huff your farts somewhere else.
Right. Is Basket Full of Heads, the brainchild of best-selling writer Joe Hill. Hill is scripting the series as well as curating the pop-up imprint Hill House Comics, the latest thematically linked umbrella from DC Comics. Just call it an imprint. That's what it is. Basket Full of Heads centers on a young woman named June in the small town of Brody Island. Jaws is Hill's favorite film, in case you're wondering. I wasn't. I read that in, what was it? Lock and Key. Trying to save her boyfriend from 4 dangerous criminals. She's carrying with her a mystical 8th century axe. See, this hasn't been released yet. Why are you spoiling this?
And that didn't. It didn't end. The book didn't end with any of that. What are you talking about?
Like literally, like he probably got review copies of the whole series, or at least what's done.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, all of this is solicitations. Like you can read up of what this is about, but the magic axe allows wielders to chop off someone's head and allows the severed head to remain alive and able to speak. That absurdly weird and macabre premise could only come from Hill's brilliantly twisted imagination, and I am here for it. Hill House is debuting with 4 other limited series besides Basketful. In recent years, creator-owned work such as Harrow County, Witches, Moonshine, Infinite Dark, and Hill's own hit IDW series Lock and Key had delivered incredibly dark, varied, scary stories. But we're also seeing major publishing jumping onto the scary end of the pool. Batman Damned by Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo from DC's Black Label with a terrifying Dark Knight's Tale. Archie's horror imprint found success with Afterlife of Archie, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is actually really good, and Jughead the Hunger. And also debuting this week, Marvel Zombies Resurrection #1. The return of a one-time zombies phenom launches a spacebound mystery involving Galactus' corpse and the threat that is turning Avengers into the undead. Just a few examples, but you get the drift. Horror is having a moment, and if we know our history, we really shouldn't be surprised. And we talked about this on the Comics Code episode, that horror comics were really big back in the beginning of founding comics. And here you see the Vault of Horror from EC Comics, the publisher that was hit hardest by the Comic Code.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm kind of surprised. Oh, that's so cool. Check it out. Just a severed arm. You can't see this, can you? I'm a terrible human being.
I don't even have the screen or the Skype pulled up. I have the chat at the moment. So
okay, well, there's the screen share if you want to look at it. But it's just a severed arm.
Quick.
Yeah, it's a severed arm on a subway railing.
Oh, come on, screen. Oh, nice. I like that.
On the flip side,
I can dig it.
Or the flip side, Matt, like Borderlands, where they rush the story and have nothing for the DLC. Like, what was this? Oh, none taken. If you say something, then you have to explain it, then you just wasted your time. Yeah. Learn to tell them people have a good sense of humor. If you want to get into comedy, learn to dodge laser beams like Dave Chappelle. No shit. Anyway, throughout the history of comics, horror titles have been a mirror that we can hold up to ourselves and our times. EC explored some of the prevalent themes in the 50s, such as prejudice, Cold War fears, and suburban cynicism. In the 70s, after the Comic Code softened his stance on such stories, Marvel titles such as Tomb of Dracula, Werewolf by Night, and Ghost Rider drifted to popular cultures. I would argue that those aren't really horror titles in the sense that, they're depicted. I mean, I feel like at this point in culture that Dracula and werewolves are more mythology than horror. Like, it's not like
I
would never, go ahead.
I would make them a different subset, like monster, not horror, but like you have like monster movies and stuff. Those are something totally different. I mean,
Right.
you have
They may have been
goddamn
considered horror at
Abbott
one
and
point, but
Abbott and Costello meets the Mummy. I would call that a monster movie.
right. Anyway,
But
but yeah, Ghost Rider, like Ghost Rider's never been a scary book. Hell, I would argue that Sandman is more of a horror title than fucking Ghost Rider is. Preacher is a horror title more than like that. I mean, hell, you have an Arseface character in Preacher, for God's sake.
I mean, I would argue that any of the more modern quote unquote SJW Marvel is horror because it is terrifying to read.
Fine. All right.
We really need we need a cricket sound effect.
I just need a picture of like my avatar just putting his hand up to his face, going.
Or we could clip out the "How dare you," Greta Thunberg. How dare you?
Yes, absolutely. But
we got to figure out that soundboard thing. Anyways,
you gotta get a computer first. Like, stop giving me more shit to buy. Put your money where your mouth is, sir.
Well, more so than a computer. Really, I need like a proper internet connection.
I think you need a computer too. That way you can actually edit the videos and not like piece them together.
Yeah.
Anyway, drafted on popular culture's growing fascination with anti-heroes by giving supposedly bad guys their own titles, Tales of Dracula's 70-issue run is considered the high mark of the Bronze Age horror storytelling. And that's because there was no other horror storytelling going on, really, in comics. DC jumped in with several new titles during the same period. The Witching Hour, Ghost, and my personal favorite, Weird War Tales, which was actually pretty good. Which put a supernatural spin on the burgeoning nostalgia of the greatest generation, which is boomerdom. Swamp Thing. Perhaps no horror comic has been emblematic of its era as Swamp Thing. From the earliest days of the 70s, Len Wein and Bernie Wrightstein's creature creation has served as an avatar for society's eco-awareness or lack thereof. When Alan Moore took over for Swamp Thing Volume 2, he continued the environmental themes while also addressing issues like identity crises. During the 1990s, the books like Sandman and Hellblazer formed the foundation of Vertigo Comics. Boom. These titles showed some famed disinterest in the play-it-safe nature of much pop culture that sprang out of its previous decade. Comics under the Vertigo mask rolled the dice and took chances on horror and supernatural tales that were stark in contrast to the hero adventures that saturated the market. Which I think is a lot of reason why the Vertigo titles like Doom Patrol and Preacher and stuff like that actually took off because, and same thing with Image. I mean, Image also, even in stuff like Wildcats and, what was the Rob Liefeld thing? Youngbloods, that were very, very superhero-ish. I mean, it was still a shift in the market. It was the extreme attitude era kind of thing. I mean, you had Stone Cold Steve Austin. Well, you had Stone Cold Steve Austin and D-Generation X and the wrestling scenes. I mean, you had the home run race with Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa. Everything was just bigger and better and more badass then. Like, I feel
and
like...
more extreme.
That's right, with X's and Surge. Everybody was drinking Surge by the fucking case.
you could literally hear colors if you drank enough of that shit.
Oh, that's because of the LSD in it, but don't talk about that. Now here we are with the time as turbulent a period in American history as we ever seen. Present day resembles the upheaval to the early to mid 70s. The president facing potentially impeachable scandal. Oh, shut the fuck up. The fuck does this have to do with horror comics? economic divisiveness and the precarious peak, and overall uncertainty in the nation's global standing. Look, if the Congress can't figure out whether or not the president can be impeached, how the fuck does some jackhole at Sci-Fi think that he knows that the president deserves to be impeached? Oh, fuck yourself.
I mean, realistically, Trump's just going to walk up and he's just going to go, wrong. Or they're going to be like, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And he's going to say no. And then they're just going to be like, oh, fuck, what do we do?
That would be such a big dick energy move right there. No, I do not swear that. You can't make me. Nah.
Nanny, boo, boo.
He just calls in a special witness call. Yes, I'd like to call in a special witness. DJ Khaled comes out and tells everybody they played themselves. Congratulations, you've all played yourselves. Thank you, Mr. Khaled. You are indeed the best. Anyway, sorry. Economic divisiveness is a precarious peak, and overall uncertainty of our nation's global standing. Back then, horror comics as well as feature films like The Exorcist were planting a flag in the zeitgeist. Is it a coincidence that during the similarly tumultuous times we're seeing the same sort of stories gaining a fast foothold? And, Ethan Van Sciver has a really interesting theory about this, as far as you can kind of tell the political landscape of the country based on what is popular in its media. He said that like vampires and werewolves were one political alignment, and the other political alignment was represented by like aliens and zombies. And their popularity in pop culture. I don't know the truth of this, but it's something really interesting to look at. He mentioned it back in the day when he actually showed up on the Kumite occasionally. How long ago that was.
Jeez.
But, yeah. Anyway, back then horror comics as well as feature. Present day resembles the upheaval of early to mid 70s. Oh yeah, we've already read that. What is it about the scary stories that capture our imagination during the times like these? Perhaps this gives us the chance to tend our fears in a safe way. Watching a scary movie or reading a horror comic provides a chance to get the fear out of our system and then safely compartmentalize it. Or it could be as simple a reason as Joe Hill said in one interview. Stories, he said, help people better understand their world. Whether a comic called Basket Full of Heads can help anyone do that is anyone's guess, but I'll certainly give it a shot because, well, I'll be damned if I'm passing up a comic with a magic axe and talking severed heads. Which you get none of in the first issue. We'll be talking about that later. I guess we could go ahead and review it after this.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get a quick snippet at the beginning, but...
Yeah, that's the hook.
Yeah.
But anyway, I love getting feedback, positive or negative. No, you don't. You'll block me on Twitter as soon as I fucking question shit. I'm going to save this article for later. I'm going to contact this guy on Twitter and say, look, dude, what the fuck does the president have to do with horror comics? And I'll repost when he blocks me.
I like how it's when he blocks you.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. 100%. You sent me a couple of things that were interesting to look at.
I did. I did some Googling on my lunch break.
Oh, did you? You managed to pull the Google up?
And I haven't read any of these. So, actually, I might have read one of them.
Quality control here on the Gospel of Comics, folks.
Well, of course. Hey, I just like throwing shit at you and seeing if it sticks.
I can remember the last time a scary story actually scared me. 2 planes have hit the World Trade Center. That scared the shit out of me. It wasn't a fictional story.
All I remember from that was being at school and then the teacher saying, like, a plane just hit a building and your parents are coming to get you, and then going home and then, like, going to my room and, like, I don't know, like, playing with action figures or something.
Oh, yeah. No, I was in creative writing class, and then we had, like, counseling and shit. It was really weird. They called us all into the auditorium, and they tried to explain to us what had happened and how we should compartmentalize it and process it, and I'm just like, nah, y'all, like, 3,000 people are, like, dying and shit. I don't even think we had a number back then, but people were, like, freaking the fuck out. They were like, I got family in New York. What the fuck? But, anyway. You want to go ahead and look at Hill House? Or I have another article on Hill House, but that is one of the books we're looking at today. It was requested in the Patreon by, oh God, what did she say we needed to call her? Captain something.
With the what?
Oh man, she requested a specific Captain Shithead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was Captain Dickhead.
Either way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was requested by Captain Dickhead in the Patreon. We're going to be reviewing Basket Full of Heads. So before we get into that other article, and there are more fucking spoilers, why don't we look at it?
Yeah, let's grab the other article, then we'll get into it.
Okay. All right. Fine. We'll do it your way. We'll do it live. That's all. It only leaves your. It only leaves your.
I mean, you said you had.
I mean,
you said you had another article, so why not?
I do. You know, this is mainly more about Hill House launching Basket Full of Heads.
Oh, yeah.
This is from
whatever.
ComingSoon.net.
Segways.
But DC's Hill House Comics launches Basket Full of Heads with Joe Hill. This Halloween, DC and Joe Hill are. Holy shit! There's no weird acronym in this one except the title of one of Joe Hill's books. Uh-oh.
Oh my god!
This Halloween, DC and Joe Hill are taking care of all of your boogeyman needs and coming up for the upcoming months. As the Hill House imprint debuts today with Basket Full of Heads, written by Joe Hill of Nosferatu, is how you pronounce that. Again, just Lock and Key. But everyone knows Lock and Key if they know anything about comic books. So,
right.
Slight critique, but with the art by Leah Max and the cover by Riko Murakami. Additional new titles will hit comic book stores in November and December, and January and February. Just in case you were wondering, you can check out Basket Full of Heads and the Hill House comic trailers below. I think we've already looked through these, but for anybody who didn't catch it last time, Basket Full of Heads is a story of June Branch, a young woman from a small town of Brody Island. 4 cunning criminals have kidnapped her boyfriend. What?
Except I thought she was from not the island, like she was from a different town.
Not from. Oh, yeah, well. But, I mean, she's in that town.
She's in the town.
4 cunning criminals have kidnapped their boyfriend for their deranged reason, and June is trapped with them with no defense except an 8th century Viking axe that can lop off a man's head in one stroke. But there's a cat. The severed heads remain conscious and are still capable of speech. Each disembodied head has its own malevolent story to tell before long June finds herself in an even more death struggle to hack through their lies and manipulations, racing to save the man she loves before it's too late. So, I mean, this, from what we read tonight, this book promises to get much more interesting, and I didn't mind it to begin with. Like, it was a really good setup, but we'll get into that when we're reviewing it.
Yeah, we'll wait.
Written by Mike Carey with art by Peter Gross.
Dollhouse is definitely one of the ones that I think is going to be pretty cool from the preview that we reviewed.
Right, Dollhouse Family, written by Mike Carey and art by Peter Gross and Vint Locke. Go ahead. I was introducing it because I missed the title when you were talking. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think Basket Full of Heads and Dollhouse were the two that I'm most excited for. Mostly just because I like the title Basket Full of Heads, but Dollhouse definitely that preview that we looked at however long ago definitely looks really weird.
Oh, this
and
is
kind of
interesting.
twisted.
With covers by Jessica Dalva featuring Dollhouse's Dalva built by hand. Debuts November the 13th on Alice's 6th birthday. On Alice's 6th birthday, her dying great aunt sends her a birthday gift. She didn't know she was always wanted a big, beautiful 19th century dollhouse complete with a family of antique dolls. Hardly any time at all, the dollhouse isn't just Alice's favorite toy, it's her whole world. Soon young Alice learns that she can enter the house to visit a new group of friends, straight out of the heartwarming children's novel The Dollhouse Family. As the years pass, Alice finds herself visiting their world more frequently, slowly losing track of where reality ends and make-believe begins. What starts as play concludes in an eruption of madness and violence. The house can offer her shelter from all of her sorrows, but only if she gives it what it wants, and God help her if she tries to walk away again.
Bum, bum, bum.
And The Lolo Woods will launch on December 18th from best-selling author Carmen Maria Machado and artist Danny, featuring covers by Sam Wolfe Connolly and J.A.W. Cooper. Jaw Cooper. That is a big dick name if I've ever heard one. Jaw
What the
Cooper.
hell?
J.A.W. Cooper. 3 initials.
How is your first name 3 initials? Like, how rich is your family that you can afford 3 first names?
You know, this will completely negate the idea that is a big dick energy move, but his last name is Cooper, which is also Renfamous's last name. So maybe he added an extra name to keep his own last name and take hers.
I mean, he would.
He would have to.
Yeah.
But we don't know anything about this guy. I'm not going to put that bad juju on him. When you live in a...
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
That is correct. When you live in a Pennsylvania coal mining town called Shudder to Think, there's bound to be stories to tell, especially when the coal mines underneath it have literally been on fire for years. All right, I'm in.
I mean, there is a town in Pennsylvania like that, but I don't think it's called Shudder to Think.
2 local teens, Elle and Octavia, wake up in a movie theater with no memory of the last hours of their lives and begin a surreal and terrifying journey to discover the strange truth about their hometown, encountering human-eyed rabbits, a deer woman with a taste for humans, and swaths of skinless men along the way. All right. Sounds like some creepypastas I've read.
I remember the preview for that one being shit, but maybe I'll give the first full issue a second go.
These 3 titles, as well as the rest of the Hill House lineup, will also include a chapter from the backup feature, Sea Dogs, written by Hill, with art by Dean McCade. It's 1779 and the American Revolution is screwed. The untold firepower, the British Navy is wreaking havoc on fledgling republic, and of course, the only answer to turn the tide of the battle are werewolves. And that's it. He doesn't
now,
even
is this fiction, or did that really happen?
I think that really happened. That's
I'm saying it really happened.
Yeah, that's why beards are so prominent now.
Right. I mean, I could see Washington, going up to like the leader of the werewolves, being like, "Come on, the British suck. Nobody likes them.
Yeah.
Let's help us kick their asses. Come on."
I feel like I've seen a B-rated horror movie similar to this. Yes. Let's see. Laughing Joe is putting it out there. Corey Anderson just beat Johnny Walker. Nobody beat Johnny Walker except Jane Walker. Thank you, Novel Bro. TKO stoppage by a very smart ref. Really goofy now. You can't tell which games are installed or not. A feature that I like. Plus, the library looks like a big storefront, and there was no need for it. Yeah, they've done that with They've done that with Windows. Like, I reskinned Windows 10 with some kind of third-party reskinning software to change the fucking pop-up menu and the just everything where they put advertisements for like games and fucking software that I don't have installed. Like, if I wanted it, I would buy it, motherfuckers. But I don't know. I've always kind of had an aversion to being advertised to, like, consciously.
Yeah, radio ads I think are the worst.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially when they try to have a jingle, but the jingle is just not good.
Right? Or if it's either like listen to the ad on this one station or listen to like a shitty song that you really hate on the other station.
Right.
Ugh.
So, let's go ahead and take a look at Basket Full of Heads, since we've essentially spoiled the entire book for you. But,
oh, we're going to spoil everything up in here.
Now, I remember when I first saw this, I was like, hey, the raincoat. Somebody's been following Tug's channel and has stolen Lug's character design. But we don't see the raincoat except in a couple of pages, and we assume it's June under the raincoat. And for some reason, she's got an American flag draped over the basket of heads. I don't know the reasoning of that. I mean, I would figure it would be a Nordic, like, Family Herald flag or something like that, considering the area of where she took the axe from.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming it has to do with the fact that they're at the police chief's house, so he probably has like an American flag like on a pole out front.
And in every room. And at the as the top lining of his pickup truck, because that liner fell out and he just stuck a flag up there to make up for it.
Exactly.
Like you do.
So what else are you going to do?
I have a Dr. Pepper jingle from the mid-90s stuck in my head. Yeah.
That's random as fuck.
Yeah. But, first things first, I don't talk about this a lot, but that's because a lot of superhero comics we read have had their logos for 50 years. Yeah, is it just me, or does the basket full of heads? Yeah, see, I just said that. It looks like Lug. he stole Lug's look. But I want to talk about the logo for a second. Now, first off, I am not a fan of these disjointed, like, paint can splatter fonts. I like a clean font, but it works for what it is. But the X and the A really makes it for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really, like, as a graphic designer, stuff like that just really gives me a stiffy. You know what I mean?
little on the nose for you.
Well, I mean, I like it. The X and the A, like, being the hole in the A, it's legible. It says everything you need to know, and there's an axe built into it. So even if the girl in the background wasn't holding an axe, you would know that an axe was part of this. It tells a story. I like it.
You would assume.
Well, I mean, if it wasn't, then that's Chekhov's gun. But anyway,
axes are always a good idea.
Basket Full of Heads opens up with a flash forward. We see someone in a raincoat approaching the edge of a bridge with a basket, and the basket is talking. Anybody that caught our review of, what is it, 3 or 4 different, did they have a preview of all of them, or just a handful?
I thought it was 4 of them. Yeah. It was this, the dollhouse, that wood one with the 2 lesbians, and something else.
Okay. Anyway, you start with a flash forward of the person you can only assume is June, who we know now as our protagonist of the story. But from reading this, you would assume that the main protagonist of the story, up to the very last page, would have been the young police officer, right?
Yeah, whatever his name is.
But basket full of heads. Now, I don't like the second page as far as the design thing goes because there are two arms in the basket full of heads. But
and it kind of has a Monty Python sort of font to it, doesn't it?
Fraggle Rock almost, right? Like Flintstones.
Or that. I was thinking like Life of Brian.
Yeah, okay.
When I saw it, but...
written by Joe Hill, illustrated by Leah Max, colored by Dave Stewart, lettered by Deron Bennett, and edited by Mark Doyle and Amito Turnturo. Basket full of heads created by Joe Hill. So, this flash forward, you get the basket of talking heads, you get the woman in the raincoat, and some guy stopping to pick her up with a rifle or a shotgun strapped behind his seats for whatever reason.
I feel like you don't see that much in the Northeast as you would in like the South.
Yeah. You don't really see it a whole lot anymore at all. But
yeah, that's fair.
Usually your gun racks are boxes now.
Yeah.
You have cases for travel. You don't just have a gun hanging around in your car. And they frown on that shit. But
oh, you're not supposed to do that?
No, not without. I mean, you can if you're going hunting and whatnot, but I mean, just having a gun riding around, it's generally frowned upon if you get stopped for a speeding ticket. It's guaranteed to get your car searched, basically.
I mean, and I would just have one thing to say to that. Hopefully this actually comes through.
How dare you?
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. I'm not sure how you did that, but I like
it. I'm clever. Let's just leave it at that.
I wouldn't go that far. But you get the flashback, and the girl sitting on the edge of the bridge, and her boyfriend, who is a cop, or a summer cop essentially, just stops and gives her a ride or whatever. It's implied that they have sex. Apparently right there on the bridge, I guess. Not really.
Which, seems like a safety hazard. Yeah. Don't have sex on bridges, people.
Well, yeah, probably not the smartest thing. Or in the shrubbery, for that matter. Don't have sex in the shrubbery either.
I mean, if you're going to have sex in shrubbery, though, just, look for poison ivy first.
That's a life lesson, folks. You should take that one down.
It really is. Should be taking notes.
But
there will be a test later.
All in all, you get a short back and forth between these two. They've been dating for a little while, saving up their summer money. They briefly talk about buying a car together. You've got some normal relationship drama or whatever, where the woman is just like, oh, he doesn't want to commit to me, blah, blah, blah. I've got all these doubts. And he's like, no, I'd love to. I'm just poor.
Which, isn't that a conversation we've all had, guys?
I think so, yeah. No, it's not that I'm afraid of commitment. I just have no money.
I haven't bought new socks in like 4 years. So,
I asked for like boxers and socks and, clothes for Christmas these days. That's what I want.
Isn't that weird how the things you used to hate as a kid, you tend to like as an adult, like getting clothes for Christmas, naps,
spankings. Yeah, I was going there again. We have another update. Derek Lewis is another winner. I plan on getting a shotgun rack for my rear window of a truck when it comes in. Well, that's fine. You can do it. It just, like I said, the first time you get pulled over, you're getting pulled out of the car. Your car's getting searched.
Just
be aware of
just
that.
remember the wise word of Greta Thunberg.
How dare you?
There we go. Can you guys hear that?
I hope they can.
He's playing a sound effect that I assumed it would make someone laugh if they had actually heard it. I can hear it. And if I can hear it, they should be able to hear it. But that doesn't mean anything.
In theory.
So,
I mean, we're great at this audio thing.
that's another reason I want you to get a computer. I'm going to make you host the streams from your computer where you know what the fuck audio is doing what. But, they have that back and forth. Go ahead.
Technically, I have a computer. It's just old as shit and, barely turns on, and I don't have a proper internet connection.
Look, an Etch-a-Sketch is not a computer. We've been over this.
No, it has a screen and a keyboard and, a trackpad. And makes that stupid, Windows, ding sound.
Does the screen clear when you shake it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, give me 20 minutes while it turns on, and I'll let you know.
But after that exchange between the two of them about being poor and being truly in love and this is his best girl and all this stuff, which I don't know that it actually gives you a time period that this is taking place in, but I assume it's a long time ago. It
seems like the 80s.
It seems like a little bit before that. I mean, 80s was like Beatnik and Paisley. Best girl? That's kind of lingo for 50s and shit, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. But, I mean, he's driving a Volkswagen Beetle turned into a dune buggy as a police car. I think that would have been more maybe 70s and might have trailed off into the 80s when that became popular.
Maybe. I don't know. It's really hard to place the time on this because of the dialogue, but it was kind of hard to do that in Lock and Key as well for a little while.
Yeah.
So,
which I think is almost kind of the point of his writing.
Yeah. I mean, if you... And we'll get into that. But after that, they encounter a big gathering of police officers because dude has his radio turned off, probably because he was nailing a chick on a bridge.
Yeah.
But they pull over.
Which again, if you're going to do that, at least make sure you have bungee cords attached to you, just in case you fall.
Yeah. But no, you. Anyway, sorry. You get them pulling over and investigating while the cops are gathered and have an inmate work release on the ground or whatever, and you find out that 4 of the criminals have decided to run off. Okay? And the sheriff, or the main officer, I don't know. I think he's a sheriff.
Yeah, I'd say sheriff.
I mean, they're just cops. They don't have stars. They got badges, so he could just be the chief or the captain or whatever. But he as chief, he calls him chief. So yeah, chief of police. But this guy just doesn't think that the 4 that escaped are really that big of a deal. He's like, you've got 2 drug charges, you've got a drunk, and you've got somebody who was pimping his daughters out from the back of a laundromat. And I'm guessing this is the mayor that, he's like, none of these are exactly the Boston Strangler, but you've got the mayor or something like that, some big wig, and he's like, we're gonna figure this out, but I don't think any of these guys are that drained or that dangerous or whatever. And the mayor's all like, well, the guy that pimped his daughters out, I have 2 daughters, blah blah blah. And I get that. You don't for the police, for the chief of police to fucking say something like that just seems a little out of place to me.
Yeah, it's a little weird. But
again,
actually, that Boston Strangler reference, that actually does give us a time frame. Uh, he was someone who murdered 13 women uh, in Boston during the early 60s. So we
okay,
have to assume it's within a few years of that happening, if, it's still a culturally relevant reference.
okay, good looking out, good investigating. I'm glad I keep you around.
I can be useful occasionally.
Occasionally. Whatever rack you with, go for one with a a faux glass front cover. Yeah, yeah. Um, but and I do see your comment, novel bro. I am just choosing not to read it live. But I'm not ignoring you, and that was funny. But I'm not saying that out loud. You can't even Streamlabs it to me right now. Haha. But
I mean, you could, yeah, never mind.
anyway,
Could use a different word instead of the capitalized one at the end.
I'm not using any words. Dodge the pink slip there, Ayrton. Good on you. But yeah,
For now.
So this guy just really isn't concerned about it. And while that doesn't seem like something the chief of police would say in this kind of story, I think that kind of shows what kind of writer that Joe Hill is. Because while it doesn't seem like something that a chief of police should or would say in anyone's company, it probably is something a chief of police would say.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you'd think after a certain point they're just like, tired of all the shit they have to deal with all the time, and you use humor as a defense mechanism.
right.
That gallows humor. You'll hear like firefighters making jokes about stuff after horrific,
Oh yeah.
fires where like 37 people are burned alive, and they make like jokes how they're going to go have a barbecue when they're done and stuff like that.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
It's a coping mechanism.
But during this exchange, you basically find out that there's supposed to be a gathering of this kid who's been living with the chief of police and his wife or whatever. And June is going over, and So they get there and they eat. And during this time, the chief is out trying to round up these 4 criminals who, again, he doesn't suspect to be any kind of major threat, but
Yeah, more of a nuisance.
right, but obviously escaped criminals are escaped criminals. And during the course of dinner, we're introduced to the main story's acts, right? Like the main plot device.
The MacGuffin.
I don't know that it's a MacGuffin if you actually use it. No, it's the MacGuffin. It's Chekhov's gun if it doesn't actually get used, right?
I think that's the technical difference.
But during this whole time, the chief's son is eyeballing this girl and being real handsy with her and shit. You can kind of tell that the cop's just not really feeling it. But you're introduced to the acts, and this is apparently because the chief and his family are Nordic in heritage, is why they have it. But even though apparently the axe is shown activating, or the rune is turning red instead of black. I don't know why that's happening, but hopefully it'll be explained in a later volume. Maybe this girl.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, maybe this girl's like aura activated it or some shit. She's the one that can activate it. I don't know.
I'm assuming she's like descended from like the original wielder of this axe. Would be my guess.
But it's at this point that there's a phone call after dinner. There's a phone call. One of the mother's friends' husband died trying to apprehend these criminals as they were stealing a boat. And again, the chief of police is being very nonchalant about all of this. He's just like, okay, well, they got a boat and this guy's dead, but I don't think they killed him. I think he probably just slipped and fell trying to catch them. They're probably just on their way to Canada or some shit, right? So it's not our problem anymore. I'll be home soon, blah, blah, blah. But the woman is, going to console her distraught friend, leaving, and the son is driving her. And they're leaving the girl and the police officer to watch over the boathouse, which is what this is. So, it's explained that this guy knows where the gun safe is and all that. And then you kind of flip over.
Knows like the combination to it.
Right. And then you flip over to during that evening, and these two are watching television and hear a thump in the night. And that's when you discover that at least two of the criminals have broken into the chief of police house. Even though, and somehow they're already upstairs. I guess because it's a houseboat, there's a way to access the upstairs from the outside of the boat or some shit. I don't know.
Is it a houseboat? Did I miss that?
I think it's a houseboat. Either that or they have a boat that this kid's staying on. So, I don't know that houseboats have upstairs. So, maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, normally it's like a deck.
Well, yeah, but they mention that, the kid's been staying with them on their boat. Did I read that incorrectly or something?
I don't remember. I read this a couple days ago.
Okay. I just read it today, but maybe if
wait. I thought it said like he's been like out on the boat with us or something like the mother was making like small talk or something like stupid small talk. Like, oh yeah, we love your boyfriend. He comes out on like the boat with us all the time or something like that.
Let's see. We've had plenty of young men stay out on our boat and work as summer deputies for my husband. Okay, so maybe they have like a guest boat or a guest house on their boat or some shit.
Who knows? It doesn't matter.
So weird. But anyway, and that's basically the end of the story. Now, I'm going to wait a little while before we get into the backup story, which was really interesting, I've got to say. But my main criticism of this is, as good as it was, I feel like I like Joe Hill's writing in chunks more than I do in single issues.
Yeah, I definitely wish there was more when I read this.
Like, because he takes so much time to set up and develop characters and everything, and that's not a bad thing. It just...
No, not at all.
Yeah, the rigid paneling works too, as the creativity jumps out of each one. Right. I feel like this is just not enough. I mean, it's one of 7, so it's going to be a 7-issue series. It was, 30 pages-ish? There's 20-something pages of this, and then 4 or 5 pages of the backup story.
Something like that.
I really enjoyed this. It just, by the time you got to the end, it was such an abrupt ending, and it's literally like a cliffhanger. What'll happen next week, kind of thing. And I don't know. Some books I feel like are okay like that, when there's just such a loosely threaded, overarching plot that eventually starts to come together. But other books, I don't know. I don't think if we would have had to wait on Lock and Key issue to issue when we read it for this show.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. I couldn't imagine doing that.
Right. And, that's, like I said, it's not that there's not enough in this issue to constitute. It's just, I have no idea at this point how we're any closer to having a basket full of talking heads and an axe-wielding murderer girl.
Yeah.
And I really wish I was.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want him to speed it up. I would have rather have picked this up for the first time in a trade or a completed format. And I don't know, I don't like reading his stuff issue to issue because I really want some more of it right now. Like, I'm definitely going to read the second issue of this, but I may not read the second issue of this until after the 7th issue has been published.
Well, he's so detailed, and like you said, so his stories are so much more character driven than a lot of other stuff that you would end up going back and rereading each back issue, like the farther out you get. By the time if you waited and didn't reread them, by the time you got to like issue 5, you'd be like, wait, hold on a second, I need to reread all of this,
right?
Just to remind myself of everything.
Yeah,
which isn't a bad thing, like you said. It's just in this format, it's just kind of like why?
Well, and if I can be fair, if this, kid, if the dude, if he ends up getting killed, I feel like this issue could have been structured completely differently and would make a better impact on the overall story going into issue 2.
Yeah.
Because if he ends up getting killed, then you spent the entire issue building him up as a character. And oh shit, Danielle got her paper done on time. Congratulations.
All right.
It's just, I feel like if you're gonna do that with this this type of story, if you're gonna release it in this manner, it just, especially if that guy ends up dying, like this entire issue is gonna feel wasted going into the 2nd and 3rd issue, because we spend an entire issue getting to know a character that's not going to make it to issue 4 or 5. Like, what?
Yeah, I feel like, though, if he is going to kill this character off, it's probably going to be later down the road. I don't think he's going to, like, start off with that.
Right, but
if anything, maybe like a hospitalization.
Well, the thing is as a reader, what am I to infer from the fact that the Flash Forward has a single figure, presumably a female, chunking heads off of the side of a bridge, or preparing to chunk heads off the side of a bridge wielding an axe, and then we're introduced to 2 characters in the flashback. One of them's gonna die.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said possibly hospitalization, not, flat out death. Because the little, like, teaser blurb does say that she has to save, like, the man that she loves. So, I don't know if he's going to flat out die that early if he does, just based off of that.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll definitely be looking at issue 2, probably as soon as it comes out and after issue 7 comes out. But
yeah,
Novel Bro in the chat says horror works better in novel form. To be fair, more information to be frightened by, and it gets thrown at you in a descriptive spade. Lovecraft sold me on this when I read At the Mountain of Madness. Yeah, long form horror. I feel like, well, novels or like Lock and Key. I would not change a single thing about any volume of Lock and Key. Right? I mean, the story as it stands is perfect now that it's done. But I don't know that I would have gotten as much enjoyment out of it as much as I would anxiety if it was released in an issue format today and I enjoyed it then. Because
I couldn't imagine waiting through all those volumes with each single issue coming out one at a time.
Right.
That would
now it obviously did
be insane. Yeah.
But I'm glad that I discovered the series once it was completed and I could purchase the trades.
Right. And all the ancillary stuff that he wrote for it, too.
Right. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. All in all, I mean, it's a good comic. I enjoyed the story. I feel like, I really kind of have a decent grasp on the fact that, okay, we've got an untrained cop here. Well, not an untrained cop. We've got an ill-equipped cop, and excuse me, we've got an ill-equipped cop, and we've got essentially a floozy. And this is our line of defense against a group of 4 ragtag criminals that have somehow broken into the upstairs of the chief of police's home. And at some point,
and don't forget the magic axe.
I was going to say, at some point, an axe is going to become very, very important to the story. So, I like it.
Yeah, it definitely has that suspense cliffhanger ending, and really, really makes you want more. And I just wish he would just wrote and did all this just as a graphic novel, trade paperback form, just like the entire story.
And I don't blame Joe Hill for this either. It's
probably DC's fault.
Well, DC probably has the monthly mandate. I can't remember the last time I saw just a graphic novel from DC. It's been a long time.
Matt Christie in the chat our man on the street is reporting that a semi-truck load of Viagra was just stolen, and they're looking for 4 hardened criminals.
I'm going to credit you with that joke and fire you for it.
I mean, but it's our man in the street reporting on this one.
Right.
I'm just relaying relaying the message.
I don't abide by not shooting the messenger. I'll get a 4-edge serrated arrow and tell you to teach your dog how to DUCK. Oh man, mad black atheist pun there. Just for anybody who wasn't aware that actually does have basis in internet lore. Anyway, I liked it. I don't think that it's really the kind of series that I'm going to enjoy being a weekly series, but I am going to enjoy the story, I feel like. I felt a little bit of the lock and key elements as far as the writing goes, because the settings seem to matter a lot in Joe Hill's work.
Yeah.
Just like Hill House was so important, but bow fight with Ayrton, that would be so stupid. The man actually can use a bow. I mean, I can too, but not as well, I'm sure, because I would never style myself as an archer or an archery enthusiast. I just know how to wear a what are those guards you wear on the inside of your arm to keep the bow from ripping your skin off when you loose it too hard? Yeah, I know how to put one of those on and loose an arrow at a block. I don't necessarily know how to always hit the block.
You know how to pull the string back and let go of it.
And make sure it shoots away from me and not at me.
Yeah.
I feel like that's half the fight.
Try catching an arrow. That's hard as fuck.
People in the chat might not know this, but if you don't loose an arrow correctly, it will come back at you.
Oh yeah. It'll bounce around and do all kinds of weird shit. And you're like, God damn it.
It is not like they show in the movies. You don't pick up a bow and arrow and just immediately know how to use that shit. You have just as much chance of shooting yourself with an arrow, not knowing what you're doing, as you do a gun.
Maybe a little bit more, because at least if you're pointing the gun forward, that's the way the bullet's going.
I mean, yeah, but then you still crack yourself in the nose with one.
True. Which I love those videos. You have like the hot chick and like short like Daisy Dukes and like a bikini top, like holding like a Desert Eagle or like a huge ass 357 Magnum, and then she just clocks herself in the forehead with the muzzle when she pulls the trigger.
Oh yeah.
I love those videos.
But anyway, what else have we got? We got a couple more things that we can talk about. We might be running a little bit long tonight.
We are.
Well, no, technically we still have 15 minutes, but I mean we still have some articles to talk about. I know there's at least one that I want to bring up because it brings up a Brian Michael Bendis tweet, and it's a pretty short article. Plus, it ties into the next book we want to review. Yeah, we might get through all of them.
I saw Bendis. I was like, Church will like this.
Yeah, I like shitting on Bendis. One of my favorite pastimes. Almost as much as I like shitting on Rob Liefeld. Even though I got nothing against Rob Liefeld.
He's a bit of a twat, though.
Isn't he, though? Alright. So, Kitty Pryde director thinks film will never happen after Disney acquisition. 20th Century Fox planned Kitty Pryde movie won't be happening. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Mrs. Aaron by 3 feet. Fuck, I'm way too drunk for this. Or too sober. If you don't know what you're doing with the gun, you can cut your fingers off with the slide. Yeah.
That's true.
Too drunk or not
Let me
enough.
tell you, that's one thing.
Yeah.
I love my Walther PPK, but if you shoot that thing too much, because the profile of it's so small, that slide will definitely wear a callus on the inside of your thumb. And it's not pleasant.
Yeah, I don't have that problem with my Gladys. Just not something I have to deal with. 20th Century Fox planned Kitty Pryde movie won't be happening, according to director Tim Miller. Miller, who directed Deadpool, said that he didn't expect it'll happen now that Marvel Studios is in control of the X-Men franchise. I love the X-Men. I don't expect Marvel to call me and say, come do the X-Men. So I'm not waiting for that, Miller told Comic Book. I was really excited about my Kitty Pryde movie. Fuck, I love that movie. It'll never happen now. Back in February, the announced Kitty Pryde screenwriter Brian Michael Bendis was asked about the project. He affirmed that he was actually working on it then. Yeah, I'm working on it right now, Bendis tweeted. It's very surreal and delightful to be so deep inside the X-Mansion and the Fortress of Solitude at the same... Bendis later deleted the tweet, however, archive.org has an archived version of that tweet. And you know what I've got? I've got that tweet.
Got a screenshot of it?
I do. Well, no, I just pulled up the archive.
Or the archived.
I just pulled up the fucking archive. I want to look at this. I wanted to take a peek at this and look at the comments and see if anything was on there.
Can I just say, like, how much do you huff your own farts if your profile picture is a cartoon of you standing in front of the Superman logo?
I mean, when you're writing Superman, I guess you can do that. I'm not going to hold that against him. Now, what I will hold against him...
It still looks a little... he still looks like a dickhead for it.
Hold on. What I will hold against him...
All right.
...is Into the Spider-Verse. Brian Michael Bendis is a contact in Miles Morales' phone.
Is he really?
Yeah. B. Bendis is literally the first name in Miles Morales' phone when he pulls it up.
Jesus fuck.
See, now you need a profile picture of my avatar with his hand on its face. Go ahead, hit it again. You need to hit it again.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead and
Well,
wear
it's not
this
cued.
out.
How dare you?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But let's just take a look at the content. Bendis is deep inside the X Mansion and Fortress of Solitude at the same time. Kinky. Lucky you, dude. Miles is going to big screen. Are you high? The deal is almost done and is going to be canceled regardless. Damn. I don't understand the impetus for a solo.
Throwing
kitty
that shade.
Mm-hmm. No, not you. Anyone but you. Stop writing comics. Just stop. We don't need a dozen ethnic kids written by a wealthy white dude. Stop. I gotta find this guy and friend him on Twitter. Simulate End. I gotta follow that guy on Twitter. That's fantastic. Oh man, you ruined Superman and Superboy. He ruined the X-Men and Spider-Man as well. He's the worst modern storyteller in the world. It probably just end up being canceled. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, Simulate End. I gotta find that guy and follow him on Twitter. That's just too good. I don't know. So that was the happenings on the Kitty Pryde movie that was slotted before Disney acquired the rights to do X-Men movies as well. Also today there was a note that Deadpool 3 was in production.
I didn't even know there was a Kitty Pryde movie like rumored to be made.
I briefly heard about it before, but didn't want to believe it because I'm like, I don't have a problem with Kitty Pryde, but there's like really just a Kitty Pryde movie. Like, that just doesn't seem
like out of everybody you could choose.
right.
Like, no, don't do Gambit.
Don't do Colossus. Or,
Yeah.
Or definitely don't do another fucking Wolverine movie. Jesus Christ. No offense. I know you like Wolverine, but no.
I mean, the only good movie was Logan, and he's dead now. And just leave it at that. Don't fuck with it.
But no, I don't know. You could have do a Storm movie. After Age of Apocalypse, you don't want to do that Storm movie where she grows up in Cairo and learns how to manifest her powers? Fuck you. Where's your diversity? Right? That's good, right?
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It's been a weird week in comic book news because, again, Kitty Pryde, nobody really knew about it. They're talking about Heroes. A lot of talk about Tulsa Comic Con. And this doesn't really even have a whole lot to do with comic books, but you sent it to me, and it is about toxic masculinity, which is my favorite form of masculinity. So, we're definitely going to be looking at this. You also sent it to me from Cosmic Book, which has that ad in the corner that I love oh so much. Like, look at all these ads. That's worse than tabs.
Look at all those ads.
Right. Like, anyway. Toxic fandom blamed for Game of Thrones creators leaving Star Wars. Right. It's toxic fandom. It's not SJW bullshit. It's never SJW bullshit. Remember everyone. Antifa are always the counter protesters.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with that lady with the weird pink hair and a neck that's like obnoxiously long.
Hey, look, don't neck shame her, okay?
I mean,
Giraffe?
she looks like a giraffe sitting there about to say, you need to check your privilege.
I'm pretty sure those are her exact words after this scene, so yes. But
that's fair.
Let's just see what they have to say. Monday saw the news of Game of Thrones creator David Benioff and Dan Weiss have dropped out of doing their planned Star Wars trilogy, with details offering toxic fandom as part to blame. While Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy has said, or is said to have been concerned about the duo's ability to handle a new Star Wars movie with their $250 million Netflix deal at the same time, which may be a big reason why they left. Oh, yeah. No, it's not the $250 million Netflix deal that they're doing in the midst of Star Wars getting its worst, audience acclaim ever.
Right.
Audience, criticism, I guess. It's definitely the toxic masculinity in fandom. They are totally not, the Game of Thrones creators. The two creators of Game of Thrones who have probably been drugged through the mud for the last 3 months after the end of Game of Thrones this year. The two that can't wake up without someone sending them a Starbucks and Westeros meme. Those guys, they cannot take the criticism from the Star Wars fandom.
Right.
The Star Wars fandom has just broken these two strong ally men. They had no agency. They had to step away. They had to get back in their safe space, which was far, far, far away from Rose Tico.
Very far away, but filled with lots of Starbucks cups.
All the Starbucks cups, every single one. Also, we've been doing this show for almost 2 hours, and I've been, people have been able to hear us for at least 15 minutes of that. Can somebody let me know what the audio levels sound like? Is Ayrton louder than me? Am I louder than Ayrton? Are we about even? They are too busy blaming everyone else for their failings. Yes, absolute. But yeah, just somebody. Aurora is my least favorite X-Men. Yes, I dislike her more than the Gun-3 siblings. Oh damn, Einbrett, don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel. I actually am a fan of the 90s Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're wearing their emotions on their sleeve, which you can't do in Hollywood. Well, I mean, you can now. Look, they have a safety pin. Ayrton is slightly more quiet than you. The audio levels are fine. Okay, that's good. That works.
All right.
I'm fine with that. I should be a little louder than him being the host. I'm usually used to being quieter than him, and that isn't toxically masculine enough.
Right.
So I have to assert my dominance in being louder than him.
And be slightly louder.
Yeah, like if I was still going to be quieter than you, I would just have to start shooting my gun off at certain intervals of the show.
Which I'm sure your neighbors would love.
Oh, absolutely. They encourage it. They are sad when I don't shoot my gun off in the middle of the night.
Those are good neighbors.
Yeah, they gift me boxes of bullets when they don't hear any gunfire for a couple of days. It's great.
That's when they call the police to do a wellness check on you, when there's not gunfire coming from your house in the middle of the night.
He hasn't been outside singing Irish whiskey drinking songs and shooting his gun off in a while. I want to make sure he's okay. Usually we find him passed out on our back deck with a bottle of bourbon in his hand, but not in 3 or 4 days. Can you check on him? Oh, God. That was good. While Lucasfilm is concerned, Netflix deal, it is reported that Benioff and Weiss don't want to deal with the Star Wars fans that have bullied actors and directors. Bullied! Star Wars fans, it's not criticism, it's bullying.
Well, yeah, because if you don't like strong, generic female character number 34, then you're a bully and a bigot.
Of course you're a bully and a bigot.
And Greta has a message for all of you.
How dare you?
Something which caused him to...
I'm having fun with that.
Well, now that you know how to do it, we can get all kind of sound clips over to you. Something which caused them to cancel plans for a farewell Comic-Con appearance in the last summer of San Diego. Their controversial final season of Game of Thrones. Whew. Meanwhile, they were also feeling the heat, having began having second thoughts about jumping into Star Wars due to what one source described as toxic fandom. The creators had built Thrones from the ground up, based on George R. R. Martin. Yeah, they built it from the ground up, based on George R. R. Martin's sprawling.
do you notice something weird about that sentence?
Hey, Novel
I noticed
Bro.
something weird about that sentence.
Novel Bro, when you finish your book, and if it gets optioned for television, if anyone ever says that they built your story from the ground up, while basically using every bit of source material you had before they drove it into the fucking ground, you just let me know, buddy. We'll get you into the States. We'll get you into the States. We'll figure out who hurt you, buddy.
Yeah.
We got you, fam.
We got you.
And were initially lauded by both critics and fans, who made the show's most watched original series ever. But the divisive 6-episode final season that aired in the spring was met with such backlash the duo backed out of a farewell panel at San Diego Comic-Con, probably for fear of being pelted with milkshakes. Or frappuccinos.
Probably frappuccinos.
To go from Thrones to Star Wars, where fans have bullied actors off social media. Yes, that is correct. Fans have bullied actors off of social media. If you didn't get off of social media, they were going to come take your fucking lunch money again.
That's right.
You're going to get a
pick you up by your ankles and shake you.
If you like a fucking dog picture on Facebook, you're getting a fucking swirly. Better be off that fucking social media. And take an aim at
gonna shove that pudgy Asian chick in a locker.
Hold on 1 second.
Come on, that's not the worst thing I've ever said.
I said, give me a second. I had a child. I had to go silent. My son woke up. I was being.
Oh, okay.
Gotta be quieter when it gets this late, I guess. What it really was is his computer died, and he was watching TV on there, even though he wasn't supposed to be. And he wants me to think that he just woke up, even though he was actually trying to talk me into giving him his Kindle. But I told him to go to bed.
Yeah, as kids do.
But anyway, bullied off of social media. You're getting a fucking swirly if you like that dog picture, Karen. Anyway, not them. Notes another source with knowledge. This was Life's Too Short category. What? I've taken aims at filmmakers like Johnson. Who wants to go through that again? Okay, yeah. Yeah, they don't want to get bullied anymore. They've already been bullied enough for their Game of Thrones bullshit, right? Can you hear me?
No. Yeah,
they haven't been bullied
if they
enough.
did do Star Wars, would, like, instead of training Rey on, like, that weird Irish island, would Luke train her in a Starbucks?
He'd be Novella, bro. Hermanos Novella. And no, it wouldn't be a Starbucks on the internet. There's already a Starbucks in Star Wars. What the fuck are you talking about? Fucking cantina in the first trilogy. Anyway, the article notes the departure of.
I wish my Starbucks was like that.
You just have to shoot first. The article also notes the departure of these two guys are the fourth directors to exit Star Wars under Kennedy. You know, sometimes people don't quit jobs. Sometimes they quit bosses. As Josh Trank was fired back in 2015, Chris Miller and Phil Lord were booted from Solo, and Colin Trevorrow dropped out of Episode 9, not to mention that Garth Edwards was basically replaced by Tony Gilroy for Rogue One.
It's almost like Kathleen Kennedy has no idea what the fuck she's doing.
Oh no, she definitely does. She's spinning a narrative that she wants to spin. As I've pointed out many times, Vanity Fair also notes there are no firm future plans at Lucasfilms, with THR also adding, earlier this year Kennedy met with Benioff, Wise, and The Last Jedi director Johnson to develop a new Star Wars on the big screen, but half of those plans are now blown up like the Death Star. A source for THR further adds this stuff needs to be sorted before it gets to a cataclysmic point.
I think that happened when you decided to try and use 3 different directors for a single trilogy story. Like, that would work well. And then had to bring back the first director for the last movie because your second director fucked everything up because he's a twat and is way too into himself. And only ever directed one movie that was kind of moderately okay.
Probably. Oh, you forgot the 42069, Fatnack. If he was American, it would be WTF is a novel, bruh. 42069.
That's true.
So, we read another book this week.
We did. Did we have time to go over that one?
I mean, technically, we have all the time in the world, unless you got somewhere to be.
True.
I mean, it's not like a stream has to be exactly 2 hours. I'm not that tired.
Yeah, true.
And do you guys want us
I know you like to keep it. You like to keep it tight.
Well, I mean, Saturday is This Week in Comics. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying a good scotch. I'm not too drunk. I don't need to go start eating things until I get less drunk. I'm only on my third glass.
Sandwich. All right, fair enough.
I'm doing all right. I mean, if you guys are tired of us, we'll just end the show now. But I thought you'd want to listen to Excalibur. I'd love to gain executive producer power over Benioff and Wise. Oh, my days. They need counseling by the time the project got to premiere. They'd both be dry husk of them former selves. Yeah, that episode you sent me to edit the other day. Fuck it, reshoot it. The whole thing. It's terrible. That was 3 weeks worth of work. Yeah, I know. You have a week to get it done. What? Everyone likes to keep it tight, Ayrton. I like that the biggest pervert in our chat is the female.
I mean,
that's my favorite
really
part.
Surprising.
That's my favorite part of this chat. Is that nobody actually drops out like the perverted stuff except the female, so it's even better. I mean, we do, but we're the host. We can do that.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they say some fucked up shit, but Danielle usually starts it.
Are you saying our chat is matriarchal?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. In small gatherings, usually the women do decide how the culture is going to evolve. So here we've got Excalibur #1. It's the newest entry to the X-Men storyline, and this one, unlike Marauders, I have to keep it real. Yes, 100%. But Marauders was originally a group of like not villainous, but, scandalous mutants under Mr. Sinister. Uh, Excalibur, their new iteration, the Marauders, they're just like literal pirates trying to bring mutants to Krakoa. Excalibur has always been based around, Captain Britain and, the Camelot subdimension. And I kind of wondered how they were going to link that into this era of X-Men, because what I'm seeing is they're weaving in all of these extra dimensions into the Krakoan landscape pretty seamlessly. I've got to say, I thought they were going to have problems explaining this kind of stuff. Like, for the longest time, Psylocke and Captain Britain haven't really had that much to do with the X-Men. But now they're bringing it kind of back full circle, and, we end up with a Psylocke that's the new Captain Britain. Not the first time this has happened, but on the cover here, you get kind of a breakdown of who's who and what's what in this book. For some reason, Jubilee is important. I guess because she's a favorite character from the 90s that just get no play ever.
I mean, she did have a kid and then turn into a vampire for a bit.
Apocalypse.
That's about the last thing I know about her character.
Apocalypse is basically the X-Men's version of Prince. He no longer is going by Apocalypse and has decided that his name is now a symbol.
Yeah, something in the Krakoan language.
Right, but it's basically just an A in a box.
Yeah, with some dots.
Yeah. But,
they're very stylistic dots.
You've got Richter, who a lot of people won't recognize, but Richter is an X-Man who has the capability of changing, I don't know, the fault lines or whatever. Like, Richter is basically Avalanche, right? He's an earthbender.
Yeah, he makes the ground shake.
Yeah.
The ladies love him.
And Gambit and Rogue, obviously. And in the middle, in a very strange costume, is Psylocke, a.k.a. the new Captain Britain. Now, this is another example of the cover depicting something that never happens in the book.
Putting it mildly.
Well, not really. I mean, like, most covers don't depict what happens in the book. But these characters, like, by the time Betsy Braddock becomes Captain Britain, Rogue's in a coma. But anyway, we'll get there. The book opens up.
Yeah, the story was weird.
It wasn't weird. I mean, kinda, I guess.
Like the ending bit was weird, I should say.
But who knows? So, anyway, moving on. You start out, you've got Betsy Braddock basically making her way to Krakoa and being welcomed as Psylocke. And this is after you realize that there is turmoil in the realm of Camelot, which for people that don't do comics or people that have never really delved into X-Men, there's a dimension called the Otherworld. And in Otherworld, there is the Kingdom of Camelot with Arthur Pendragon as the king. However, at this current point in time, Arthur Pendragon is fucking missing. So, Morgan Le Fay basically becomes the Queen Regent, and apparently she discovers that in her magic pool well type thing that gives her the source of her powers, there's a Krakoan gate. And this gate, it's somehow blocked off from Krakoa. Like, you can't get to Camelot from there, but maybe they can get into Krakoa if they tried hard enough or something.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I
that's the
didn't quite
implication.
understand. Yeah, I didn't quite understand the whole Krakoan gate going into the other world bit. Like, because to create a gate, you need to take one of the flowers from Krakoa and plant it.
Well,
So, like,
if you plant a gate flower in Krakoa, I mean, it's going to grow a gate to somewhere, right? I assume that's how
I
that
don't
would
remember.
work.
I thought you took the flower from Krakoa, and then that flower was then connected back to Krakoa wherever you planted it.
I think we're just getting too far into semantics here and not just accepting because comics.
True. Because
So,
comics, I hate transvestites. All the great hamster quotes.
it's been good being on YouTube, guys.
We showed the page where he said that.
Yeah, but you have to assume and hope that we might get some more viewers one day that don't know the entire lore of this fucking show.
That's true. I mean, I'm going to assume at this point the majority of the people listening at least go far enough back to at least know that bit.
Wait. You guys' Jesus didn't have a sword? You guys got the wrong Jesus.
What? I wasn't looking at the chat. I missed something.
Novel Bro said Arthur is like the British Jesus, but he had a cool sword and fucked bitches. Arthur was cooler than Jesus. My Jesus did both of those things. And he had a 45. Let's see.
See, I would assume the Jesus from your area would have a shillelagh and just beat people with it. But
mine pull dual shotguns. My Jesus has dual shotguns, sawed-offs. And he puts them in the form of a cross right before he shoots somebody sometimes.
yeah, and says, "I'll be your huckleberry."
That's right. Anyway, Morgan Le Fay apparently drowned a knight because of this gate or something. It's really not explained. Like I said, I agree with you.
It's weird.
Yeah, in a certain extent, it's kind of weird, but because comics, they needed a way to tie this into Krakoa, and for what it is, I felt like they did fairly well with it. But Betsy walks through the gate at my Jesus wears combat boots, a leather jacket, and a spike collar. Oh, is your Jesus the vampire hunter? Did he harvest lesbians? But there's a Krakoan gate at Brian Braddock's mansion, I guess, because, you could just be a superhero and be rich, even though they never discuss the money. Can we talk about that for a second? Can you just kind of like Tony Stark? Yeah, he makes weapons. He provides the world with technology. He can probably develop a microchip that'll make him a goddamn zillionaire in every sense of the word. So he makes sense. Heroes for hire. They're essentially
mercenaries.
You're right. Like, they're gonna get like Luke Cage was always like it's about getting paid. So I mean, you kind of got an idea where he got his money from. Spider-Man, usually written as a poor college kid, swinging around on webs taking pictures of himself to sell for fucking money. He's basically a cam whore. Makes sense.
I was just about to say, that's a precursor to Instagram.
Those characters' financial situations are well written and well explained. And then you have the X-Men, who just happen to have a fucking jet and a Harrier pad underneath their basketball court with a drawbridge type opening that they can get it out of, and A basketball court, for fuck's sake. They have a basketball court. How do they have this money? If everybody hates mutants in the world, where are they getting this fucking money? Is Xavier, like, brainwashing people in banks and emptying accounts?
I mean, isn't there some sort of backstory somewhere where Xavier comes from, like, a rich family, and because he's psychic, like, was able to wisely invest everything? I thought there's something like that. Like, he has, shell companies.
Sure, okay. We'll give that to you. what about Brian Braddock? I mean, is he just British royalty? Do you have to be rich to be a fucking superhero unless you're
I'm
Spider-Man?
assuming so. He's probably a consort to the Queen, and so she pays him a stipend for having to lick her crusty old vagina.
How dare you? Dudes from Mint still think the Iron Curtain is in effect. Danielle says, yep. That one's a little quieter. Danielle says, I want to know who Jesus is Putin. Somebody sees Putin as Jesus. Yeah, apparently Donald Trump. That's the word on the street, is that our president, Jesus, is Putin. And, you know, if you've ever seen him without his shirt on, you would too.
Riding a bear.
That's right. Shooting off an AK-47. Singing Irish whiskey music. Wait, am I Putin? Somebody call a wellness check-in on Putin. But, you know...
that would be hilarious. Okay, somebody needs to take some clips of church ranting and put them over top of, like, Putin giving a speech to, like, the Russian Russian people.
Yeah, you match up the lip syncing and everything. But
yeah, no, don't match the lips up. Make it like a horrible Godzilla.
Oh, Japanese Godzilla movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Betsy shows up, and people call her Psylocke, and she's like, just call me Betsy for now, if you don't mind. And for those that don't know, Betsy Braddock, for a little while, was in someone else's body. I forget whose body it was, but it was a really weird storyline. And she's just like, call me Betsy.
That kind of weird shit happens a lot to...
Yeah. But she's like, call me Betsy, and people keep calling her Psylocke, and it's an annoying, like, recurring thing. I don't want to read too much into it, but it almost kind of feels like it's a shout out to dead naming, because then they repeat the same thing with Apocalypse, because he just wants to be the artist formerly known as Apocalypse. That's what I think that symbol means.
When you translate it from Krakoan.
Right. No, I think that's how you pronounce it in Krakoan, the artist formerly known as Apocalypse.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, they do that kind of back and forth thing.
Formerly known as Apocalypse.
No, that's one of our patrons. Captain Dickhead.
Yeah.
But anyway, during this whole exchange or whatever, you know, you kind of get a glimpse of Gambit and Rogue. Apocalypse has like a handmaid or an assistant or something that's called Trinary. Trinary, and
yeah, that took me a couple of tries to figure out how to say that one.
But you know, Gambit still doesn't trust Apocalypse, obviously. But you know, he has his own sanctuary in Krakoa, and they discover this gate that leads to Camelot, but they can't get through it
for some reason.
Right. And he immediately is like, we're going to need a champion to reach it. Now, this is one of the things that it kind of just, it fucked up my suspension of disbelief a little bit. First off, why are these two plot threads like so intertwined. Like, if you wanted to do this and introduce this, I feel like Hickman maybe should have introduced the idea of needing a champion to enter into Camelot through the gate or something like that. And then maybe at the end of that issue or something, or at the end of the series, maybe say, oh, you remember that Camelot gate? Check out Excalibur #1 to find out what happened next.
Yeah.
But to set it up like this, like it's entirely too coincidental that the only mutant with a tie to Camelot really shows up as Apocalypse is talking about trying to get into the gate.
It also makes you kind of think, though, like when you look back at kind of some of the other weird, like, things about Krakoa. Like, is this really a paradise, or are they being controlled?
Or, maybe is Krakoa conscious, and because of Betsy Braddock's link to Krakoa, they could have had the portal sprout up, and Apocalypse is like, oh, okay, so this goes to Camelot. Betsy, get your ass over here. Can you get through this thing? Nobody else can.
Yeah.
We should probably go tell Camelot what the fuck this is, because, Camelot, but that's not the way they do it.
And
they don't do it poorly.
Well,
this isn't a bad comic. I want to make that clear. This isn't a bad book.
No, it's just there's just some unexplained questions in it. But also, apparently, Krakoa isn't a new character, if you will.
It's been mentioned before, but go ahead. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think it was giant size X-Men. Krakoa showed up. It was like just a couple issues, and originally was someone who got mutated and like fused with an island or plant matter or something because of like nuclear testing in the Pacific Ocean or something like that. And the X-Men go there to try and like, because of some sort of distress call, and then they get like captured, and Professor X has to ask, some other group to like go save them or something like that. I don't remember all the specifics, but I saw that I forget somebody was talking. I saw somebody talking about this new X-Men run, and we're like, yeah, and they brought back Krakoa. I was like, wait, what? So I went and Googled it real quick.
Yeah.
But so that makes me think that maybe there's something devious about Krakoa going on, and the fact that Moira has like her no place area that only like Xavier and Magneto can get into. Like maybe the two of them are working together for something.
She has a no
nefarious.
Place that only Xavier and Magneto can get into, huh?
I mean, as long as she's keeping it tight.
Way to circle it back. You're picking that up well. I like that. I'm glad I was able to teach you something. That full circle humor.
Yeah, it all ties together. Ties together.
But you're also, the Russians aren't like us. They're white, but they're something else entirely. It's weird. Their skulls are shaped differently too. He's not wrong. I mean, have you ever seen?
He's not.
Does that mean when we say chimp out now, it can be about Russians, and they can't call us like racist for saying it?
I mean, I feel like you would have to use a different animal, like a grizzly bear. So you'd have to say like grizz out.
Interesting.
Referring to Russians.
I don't know. Anyway,
That'd be my guess. I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat?
There's also a coven led by Mariana Stern, a high priestess, and like surrounded by several what else ties together? Ropes. But, led with several other, young type students, and they're they're summoning ghosts or ghosts are being summoned or something. You're not really explained as
Again,
to
it's
what's.
again, this book doesn't explain much, and it's really weird.
It is. But I mean, it kind of works. Like, as long as you just accept that what's happening is happening. And if you accept a living island that's full of nothing but mutants that can grow gates to anywhere on the world,
Right.
it's really not that hard to accept. But anyway, these witches are confronted by the shade of Morgan Le Fay, and she's like, "Look, I'm cutting off your power until you figure out where this fucked up gate is coming from and start killing mutants." And she's like, "Wait, what? Why do you? Okay, all right, whatever." And that kind of gives you an idea of where your main antagonizing force is coming from. But then you're given another aside with, you know, Brian Braddock and Betsy Braddock's younger brother, Jamie Braddock. And I'm telling you, if this guy doesn't seem like just the skis of all skeezes, like
That's putting it mildly.
this guy is the father of all Kyles. But he seems creepy even when talking to someone that's implied to be his sister. Like, he's just hanging out all over around her, butt-ass naked. It's very strange. But they brought him back because he's a mutant, and that's what they're supposed to be doing. But basically, he and Betsy have a little bit of an altercation, and so that sets up a future, I don't know, conflict, I guess. Because since these books started, we haven't really seen any real mutant on mutant conflict.
Right.
So I'm really interested in how they're going to approach that.
Well, and she kind of talks about how, things feel kind of strange and that, she's not sure, like, how she'll be accepted and stuff like that because of what she's done. So even though she's able to go to Krakoa, it's almost kind of the opposite of Kitty. Like, she almost seems a little hesitant about going there versus, like, Kitty, who wants to go but can't. There's kind of a nice little duality between those two characters with these, last two issues that have come out, which is kind of nice.
Well, one thing, like I said, I think it's going to lead to a little bit of like family conflict in the future, and I think they set that up pretty well.
Yeah.
However, you're then approached with the artist formerly known as Apocalypse telling Betsy that he needs her to go to Camelot and try and figure out what's going on. And then we're introduced into something else that this character or this writer creates, I think, for Krakoa. Because I haven't seen this before in any of Jonathan Hickman's books or in Marauders. But she makes reference to Krakoan costume technology that allows her to just kind of like Spider-Man black suit into her costume.
Yeah, that was kind of out of nowhere. I mean, it's not surprising, but it was kind of out of nowhere.
Right. And it does kind of lend to my first fear about this reboot. If they keep using Krakoa as just a catch-all explanation, it's gonna get old real goddamn quick.
Yeah, it is.
And if Jonathan Hickman isn't like signing off and okaying all of these like little tidbit explanations that don't seem relevant to begin with, but I'm really weary of seeing something like that, like because it doesn't seem important, but it kind of is to me. Like the idea that you have basically symbiote technology coming out of Krakoa at this point.
Right.
Like, what's to stop somebody else from coming in and using that as Krakoa being tainted by someone, and anyone using any form of its, plant or derivative is essentially at risk of being controlled by Krakoa.
Which, could be something they're setting up. Like I said, there almost seems to be some sort of weird nefariousness in the background, like things are too perfect.
Yeah, well, it almost seems like, yeah, it seems like it's too perfect, but I don't know, it almost seems nefarious in its own right that they're becoming, like, addicted to Krakoa.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird.
So,
I mean, interesting idea, but still.
but, you get a brief aside with Rogue and Gambit, who really kind of feel out of place in this book. Like, I honestly feel like there was a board meeting at Marvel, and they were just like, alright, so where do we put what characters? Okay, well, we're doing Marauders, so let's do Kitty Pryde, Iceman, Pyro, somebody else, doesn't matter. Okay, well, alright, Excalibur. Well, you gotta have Captain Britain in Excalibur. Sure, yeah, right. Let's go ahead and put Psylocke in there. Alright. No, we'll make Psylocke Captain Britain. Okay, I like that. Alright. And it didn't do so well the last time we did an Excalibur book, so let's make it interesting and let's put Apocalypse on the team too. Ooh, okay. All right, that's different. All right. I'm cool with that. And you know who else we need? Rogue and Gambit. Um okay. Why? They have nothing to do with Excalibur. Uh Rogue and Gambit have a romance. We could use their romance angle in the story. All right. Okay. All right. You know who else we need? Wait, what? You know who else we need? Who? Who do you need now? Let me get Jubilee and Richter, too. Who? Jubilee and Richter. Who are those people?
So if anything, who is Richter?
Yeah. What is it? Why is Jubilee even still a character? Isn't she like dead?
Because comics.
Well, that's probably my biggest complaint about this. Like, you get Storm and Gambit, and they just feel like so out of place. But again, you get to see another like little brief glimpse of the Krakoan costume technology, and
Yeah.
then they have this conversation.
Well, it's kind of like.
Go ahead.
It's kind of like each one of these books, like in X-Men, we were kind of showcased like Jean Scott and Wolverine.
Well, no, they're all building.
Had.
They're all building their own teams. That I expect that, but the thing is,
yeah, but they're taking like the main core X-Men, and it seems like they're putting like a few of them in each book as like a tie-in.
I don't know what X-Men you've been reading, but Rogue and Gambit haven't really ever been core X-Men.
Well,
except in the show, and in the comics immediately following the success of the show.
Well, that's when I really started reading X-Men comics. Maybe core X-Men, wrong word. Like the main like recognizable characters.
Yeah.
How's that?
But I mean, I feel like you have that just in Apocalypse, especially if you've read like X-Force or something like that. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. If you just look at the way they're kind of been divided up so far with these 3 spin-offs, kind of seems like that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. We'll have to wait for the next one to come out this coming week.
Well, I mean, they don't stop increasing the number of fucking X titles. I'm going to get real upset real quick. But anyway, they determine that Betsy Braddock is stuck in Morgan Le Fay's realm, and they have to recruit Jubilee because Jubilee talked to her, and Apocalypse is a psychic now, but needs a connection, like an anchor, to reach Betsy and get her home. Rogue has to touch the gate to drain the power of the hex, keeping the gate from being activated on the side. It's really fucking weird, but it's decent. The action is really good.
I did like that clever use, or clever different use of Rogue's powers.
Right.
I thought that was a nice little touch, because normally, it's just like, oh, hey, go touch this person so he can't continue to kick our asses.
Right.
But
they're using her power.
I like that use of her power.
Yeah, to drain the magical energy off the gate, I guess. Which I guess it works because it's a Krakoan gate. Krakoa is a person. So, Krakoa is an actual conscious entity, but whatever. All this time afterwards, whatever, you see Morgan Le Fay turning Brian Braddock into a bad guy and making him her servant. Psylocke can't really fend him off, but she destroys the gate with one of her Psyblades or whatever, and then Brian Braddock gives her the Captain Britain pendant, and she uses it to get home. And that's when you kind of see that for some reason, after Rogue touched the gate and Betsy came back through, Rogue was put into a fairy tale coma, like wrapped up in a shroud or whatever. It's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand those last couple pages.
But, Psylocke makes it back and finds out that Rogue is unconscious and naked, wrapped up in a tree shroud. And then,
as you do.
Yeah, Gambit threatened to kill
Apocalypse. Haven't we all woken up like that at some point or another?
Now, yes. Usually I'm inside of a refrigerator or asleep with a refrigerator door in my bed, or on my neighbor's deck with his refrigerator door.
Well, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Whatever.
But Gambit gets all pissed off at this and threatens to kill Apocalypse. And I think this is really, really well written. Apocalypse just kind of blocks his shot and holds Gambit's hand. And he's like, if you kill me, I'll just come back. And Gambit's like, you son of a... And he's like, don't test me. Like, I'm being good. I'm going to need you to not fuck this up. But, Psylocke comes back, and everyone says, like, different versions of her name. Psylocke, Betsy, Miss Braddock. And Apocalypse is like, no, you're all incorrect. Hail Captain Britain. And she's like, what the fuck just happened to Rogue? Well, then you get an epilogue where the leader of the coven from before has, like, sacrificed all of her followers to Morgan Le Fay and then just, like, dipped out and went and joined the Coven Akaba, which is Apocalypse's old, like, religion. They give you, like, an invocation of the gods, and then, you're let know that in a week you'll get New Mutant #1 and X-Force #1. And then it keeps growing from there, so I don't know. I wasn't upset by this. Like, it wasn't bad. It's not my cup of tea. I like Arthurian Legend just as much as the next guy. It's not the Reese cup I asked for. I didn't ask for my Arthurian Legend to be mixed with my X-Men.
Right. I mean, it was definitely a fun read.
Yeah.
It was weird. Made no sense in some parts. Right. I mean, I had fun reading it.
I don't think that there is a lack of ability to explain this book in the future. Like,
Right.
I feel like everything that was weird and didn't make a lot of sense either can be explained or didn't matter enough. This is one of the ones that isn't written by Jonathan Hickman. Who wrote this? Let me pull that back up.
Yeah, because we're so prepared. We always know exactly all this information.
Right. Yeah, I could write it down, but where would be the fun in that? Then I'd be reading it with muted audio. So what am I going to do with that? Right. Teenie Howard. The writer, artist is Marcus Tu, Eric Arcanegla on colors, and VC's Corey Pettit on letters. Tom Mueller on design. Said it's not it's not terrible. It just, I don't know. Gambit and Rogue, Jubilee, Richter, they all felt out of place. Apocalypse was a bold choice, but I think it was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, at least Rogue was kind of there, like Apocalypse summoned her there to use her powers. So right. Gambit, because he's Gambit, kind of went with her. Jubilee just made no sense.
Now,
I don't think she did anything. I mean, she never did do anything before, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting, but it's not my thing. If there's going to be one of these new X titles that I just kind of dip out on, I think it's going to be this one. And that's not to say anything bad about the writing, but like I said, it's just not my former Reese Cup. Oh, yeah, on, Captain Weed. Thanks for stopping by, buddy.
Oh, thanks, Captain.
But yeah, it's not my Reese Cup. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I might get the second issue just to kind of feel it out a little bit more, just because I don't like just making an entire story judgment off of the first one. But yeah, I don't feel like this is going to be one that I follow very much. Same with even just X-Men too. But Marauders, definitely, that was a fun one. Actually, that one so far is the most interesting to me. But
yeah. Well, as far as art goes, I like the layout of some of the character design, but I'm just a little taken aback by the idea that it just feels like they're trying to reform all of these teams or whatever. Like, I would have actually been more interested to see them take on the idea of like new team stylings and stuff like that. Like you have the Externals in the Age of Apocalypse would have been cool to see come back. Like, I'd like to see Gambit leading a team. He's got the bravado, he's got the following, but I don't know that they're ever going to let that happen again. Because if there's any leader on this team, it's Captain Britain or it's Apocalypse. Like, I don't know. But,
the artist formerly known as Apocalypse.
Yes, correct. But I don't. It's not bad. Like, it's not my cup of tea. If you like Arthurian Legend, it's worth checking out. And I'm sure it's gonna play really heavily into any events that the X-Men find themselves in, like crossovers and shit. But
yeah,
so far of the of the extra tie-ins, while this one's not all bad or anything like that, it's probably the weakest in my
opinion. Yeah, like I said, I think so far I like Marauders the best, but
it's gonna take me.
We'll see.
Excuse me. It's gonna take me a little while to kind of get on that level. I think but we are almost at 3 hours, and I think that wraps up the show for tonight as far as I'm concerned. So, unless you have anything else to add, or if anybody in the chat wants to take the next courteous 10 or 20 seconds, I think we're gonna get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, all I really have to add would be,
How dare you?
That's good.
So,
absolutely. Let's see. I think I might. Let's see. I guess I can get a last word in.
Everybody wants the BBC.
I love that.
Yeah, with that, guys, I think we're gonna get the hell out of here. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Hopefully the extra almost hour makes up for my tardiness and boomerness, but we definitely enjoyed it.
See, we always make it up to you guys.
We definitely enjoyed it, and thanks for coming out, Navalbro, Danielle, Captain Weeb, Daniel, Einbrecht, Erica, the hat account, all those. So, anyway. Oh yeah, properly celebrate 100 episodes. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't have to work in the morning, so yeah, just a little extra where we where we bullshit a little longer and I don't get too terribly drunk. But no, that's good on you, Novel Bro. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Have a great one, and I think we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.
Oh, got it in before I could steal it from you.
That's right.
Anyway, later, guys.